Welcome to the podcast. It's the magical holidays. Time for Joe watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. Why, you might ask? Because it sounds like a crazy task to be watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. It'll be struggle, no I won't lie. By the halfway point I will lose my mind, but with your support I'm gonna be fine. So let's have a blast on this Christmas time. Join me now and let's find out about today's Christmas movie. Was it good or bad? Happy or sad? Is there another dead mom and dad? Let's get to it with no delay. It's your old pal Joe and he's happy to say welcome to Joe watches 60 Christmas movies in 60 days.
How's it going, everybody? It's me, it's your old pal Joe, and welcome to episode 23 of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. I'm falling behind. I am falling behind. Not the whole thing. Still watching these movies, but the podcasting is taking a back seat, and that's not good because you can't have one without the other. And it's starting to take its toll on me. And I'm not even joking. I'm not playing it up for fun's sake. It's starting to take its toll on me. I had to take my mom to a doctor's appointment yesterday, and it just took me out of the whole day. I still watched most of a movie, but I've done my task. I've done effort for the day. I don't want to have to worry about another goddamn movie. And this is when I start thinking, like, this is so stupid. Who is this for? It's just for me, but at this point, I don't care. I mean, I do care. That's why I'm doing this at all, but I guess what I mean is if I'm doing it for me and I'm not feeling rewarded, who am I doing it for? Anyway, that's the complaining out of the way for now. We have a movie to talk about, but before we talk about that movie, let's talk about my friends over at Third Eye Comics. They are the sponsor for Season 4 of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. Without them, this season would not have happened. If you need anything in the world of comics, music, movies, or tabletop gaming, they are the place to go. You can find them online at shop.thirdeyecomics.com, and if you do peruse their website, decide to buy something, please let them know that Joe sent you. And that's about it for now. Let's just jump into the movie. Today's movie is Christmas Takes Flight. It was a cute little movie. It was fine. Let's talk about what happens in it. We join a small airplane landing, and our main character and pilot, Ginny, greets passengers with candy canes as they depart. Inside the airport, she comes across a little girl scared of flying and makes her feel better by giving her a pin of some pilot wings. You know, those. When I was a kid, it was a big thing, maybe because of a commercial, where a pilot would give a little kid a pin of of an insignia with some wings on the side. I don't know if that's a thing anymore. I mean, was it ever a thing that they did regularly? Or was it always just something that happened in a commercial and it's just kind of carried through to this day? Or at least whenever they made this movie. I don't know. The little girl's grandparents, this is a story. So the mom is telling Jenny, said, yeah, my daughter's a little nervous. This is her first flight. We're going to visit family for Christmas because her grandparents are actually going on a Christmas cruise. What I don't get is, why did it take 5 years and 4 seasons for me to get an abundance of movies talking about Christmas cruises? I've had like 4 or 5 this year. That's insane. Anyway, we learned that the airline Ginny flies for, Sundancer, is a family-owned one. Well, it was until it was recently sold to Connor Airlines. Ginny isn't worried about the change in ownership. It'll be just like working for a new boss. She talks to her dad and brother about this change, and also her new boss named Matt Hansen. Apparently, he's really high-strung. Out of nowhere, Dad asked Ginny about her dating life. She said she's just not ready to jump back into the dating pool. She's happy as is. This seemed to come way out of nowhere, where he's just like, speaking of changes, what about you? Are you smooching anybody? We learn more about Matt Hansen, an office worker for the airline named Megan. Reads a profile about him. It says he likes to cut the fat, which makes her worried about her losing her job. Oh, and then Megan is also, important to note, in a relationship with Jenny's brother, Charlie. Or at least they were. They share a scene here that implies they may not be okay. This is the truth. So let's set the stage. We have Ginny, the main character. There's Matt Hansen, the boss that's coming in. Then there's her brother, Charlie. and Charlie's girlfriend, Megan. Before the movie starts, at some point, Megan and Charlie have decided to call it quits for a variety of reasons that'll come to light during the process of the movie. But that's where we're standing. We have these as our main characters. There's also a dad character who plays a bigger part in the movie than you'd think. At the end of the workday, Ginny is taking a shuttle to the local employee parking garage, but it also takes people to like a hotel. I don't know where it's going, but it's a local shuttle. And she gets on, and who should be getting on next to her but Matt Hansen, her new boss. Except she doesn't recognize him. I think she just sees him as a handsome boy, and she's like, oh, look at this handsome boy. On the shuttle, she makes small talk with him, but again, without recognizing him. He's very curt with his answers. He seems very uncomfortable with the small talk. He's very business-minded, very much short and to the point. Eventually, she gets off the shuttle. We see him go all the way to checking in at the hotel. The concierge tries to be charming, but he's exhausted and has no time for her pleasantries. And I have to say, in this scene here, and this is the only scene, and is she the only scene? Maybe she appears somewhere else. It doesn't matter. She was so obnoxious. This guy's just trying to check in, get some rest after a long day of travel. And she's like, so, are you ready for the Christmas holidays? What is your favorite snowflake? I don't know what the fuck she was saying. It was just, he was tired. This place is called the Snowflake Inn. This is named after the town in which we are in, Snowflake. I don't know why it's called Snowflake. Does not matter. But as you can imagine, a place called the Snowflake Inn is decorated to the nines. Christmas stuff all over the place. We go from there over to Ginny at her home, where she has a daughter. Daughter name is, I think, is it Chloe? I believe that's her name. Yeah, Chloe. She's having dinner with her daughter. Why we had to see that, I guess, just so that she has a daughter. Then then her brother calls to check in with Jenny and breaks the news that he and Megan broke up. It's basically because she was ready for marriage and he is not ready for marriage. They don't want anybody to know yet, which in this movie just means don't tell their dad. The next day, Jenny is late to a meeting with Matt Hansen and is shocked to see it's the guy from the day before. Cut to the meeting in progress. The family learned Jenny is not expected to be included in the executive team that he's setting up for the new airline. This annoys Jenny greatly, considering she's been with this airline for over a decade, maybe even longer than that. It's her family's airline. She gives Matt Hansen a tour of the terminal while she's giving them the tour. She's looking through paperwork, which kind of details his plan for the airline. And we see that he wants to cut employee birthday parties and recognition awards. And she says, you can't put a price on morale. And he says, no, actually, you can. I mean, look right there, I did. He says, look, I'm looking for a new VP as part of my executive team. And it seems like you're interested, but I need a VP who can take the needed actions, like cutting these things that cost extra money. And I'm starting to think that maybe you are not right for this job, despite what you were saying. Jenny assures him that she is. Then Megan, who is Charlie's ex-girlfriend, that's not important, walks up with an update on a program that the airline has. Basically, every year, the airline flies a group of kids to a place called Santa's Market in Idaho Falls. I'm assuming Idaho Falls is in Idaho. I did not do any research. I'm assuming this is also a real place. It helps underserved kids get to experience some Christmas magic. They get a Santa. They pile all the kids and Santa on the plane. They fly to Idaho Falls from wherever the fuck they are. And then they get to go to this village and they get to, have a lot of good times, and then they come back. They also eat lunch on the plane. That's mentioned a few times, but it's not really important. He says he did not see anything in the line items about this program. Matt Hansen does. Jenny says, oh, it's under community outreach. And he says, look, until we can get costs under control, I might have to put a stop to these expenditures. In effect, they're going to be canceling this year's Santa flight. Later, Jenny and her brother Charlie chat about Matt Hansen, and Jenny is not happy with him. As they talk, she gets the idea to have the cost for the flight covered by donations. Charlie points out that they don't have much time to get that working. She says that's no problem because failure isn't an option. And then we get on the screen 6 days until Santa's flight. Matt Hansen arrives at the airline for a meeting with Jenny, but she's a bit late. Instead, he chats with her daughter Chloe, who works there sometimes. He gives her some encouraging advice about figuring out what you want to do in life. Jenny arrives with maintenance reports he requested and then gives him a tour of their airplanes. They have names for all of them. The names do not matter. I did not write them down. They talk about their childhood passions. She always wanted to take over the airline. He was always interested in business since there's only one right answer. That's something that appealed to him about business. Cut to Charlie and Megan calling people for donations. They also talk about when to tell everyone about their breakup. It seems like he's interested in getting back together, but they're too busy with phone calls to actually talk about it anymore. Cut to a bar. It's inside of the hotel, the Snowflake Inn. And there's a band playing in the bar called Silver Wings. Charlie is a part of that band, and I guess it's themed after the airline. I don't know. They're playing Jingle Bells. A band is on stage at a bar, even though it's Christmas season. They're playing a proper version of Jingle Bells, and that cracked my shit up, man. Hey, can we hear you play Jingle Bells? You got it, buddy. I got you. Jingle Bells it is. So we meet the owner of the bar, who chats with Jenny's dad. She also hits on Jenny's dad, but he seems oblivious to it at this point. We find out that she's sponsoring 2 kids for the flight. This is when her dad finds out that they're still planning the flight, because he's like, wait, I thought that Matt Hansen said we couldn't do the flight, and yet this woman who runs the bar just said that she's sponsoring kids for the flight? How is this working out? He's not happy about finding out that his daughter is hiding this from Matt Hansen, because he's worried it's going to bite her in the butt when it comes out that she's been planning the privatized donation system for the Santa flight. Just then, Matt Hansen walks into the bar to grab some food for dinner. Jenny goes over to say hi, and he's very curt and not interested in chatting or joining her group for the evening. He leaves. She says he really is a good time, never waiting to happen. 5 days until Santa flight. Matt Hansen arrives for a meeting with Jenny again. She gets nervous because a poster with a list of the kids that are going to be on the Santa flight is in the office, and she doesn't want him to see it. I don't know why she couldn't just tell him what's going on. As they review different flight details, Matt Hansen notes that their most popular route is out of a different airport. Why is the headquarters there in Snowflake? She explains it's because it's where her grandmother, who founded the airline, was born. It's also where most of the employees live. Next, Jenny gives him a tour of the town to introduce him to their normal clientele and regular advertisers. We find out about Jenny's ex, who may have been intimidated into breaking up with her because she was a captain, and he might not have liked the fact that his wife was a captain and he was, I guess, a regular dude. We find out Matt Hansen is also divorced, but he doesn't seem troubled by it like Jenny does. Later that night, Jenny finds out her daughter, Chloe, made a website for donations for the Santa flight. I got so excited. This movie not only had a reference to A Christmas Cruise, this movie also has a website for people to donate to the Santa flight. It was not made with Wix.com, the best I can tell. There is no sponsorship in the creation of this website. But man, oh man, they made a website. Also, the website's address is santasflight.help. But if you try to go there, there's nothing there. 4 days until Santa flight. We find out Matt Hansen has to go to a nearby airport to check something out and is planning to drive. Jenny offers to fly him as part of her normal route. He tries to talk her out of this, but she won't hear it. What she doesn't understand is he's scared of flying! Exclamation point. Why did I say exclamation point? I'm fucking losing it. She drops him off. She flies him there. He's very nervous. She drops him off for his big meetings, and then later in the day, she picks him back up as part of, I guess, a return flight that was planned. On the way back, he is purposely sat next to a kid who is a guest on the flight. Now, this kid is the son of one of the employees. So that's a thing that is not important, but it does explain why this kid is on the flight. Jenny was just trying to be nice and be like, did you want to be my co-pilot for the day? And so he sits in the airplane. They fly back and forth. Well, on this one flight, coming back to Snowflake, what's his name? Matt Hansen gets seated next to the kid, and the kid can tell that Matt Hansen is nervous. So he makes Matt Hansen feel better. They held hands. It's very adorable. It's nice and sweet. This kid making this grown adult feel better about flying. Cut to the bar where the Silver Wings play again. Jenny arrives and chats with the bar owner. We find out she's not alone. Matt Hansen is with her. They get dinner together. There's no explanation as to why they're getting dinner together. I guess it's a business dinner. We see the bar owner getting a talk from Charlie's ex-girlfriend, about making a move on Jenny's dad, and also about her relationship with Charlie going south. Over to the dinner with Jenny and Matt Hansen, we find out he's so business-focused because it's something he can control. He thinks it comes from his ex-wife leaving him for his best friend. We also find out Jenny once had a chance to be an international pilot, But Chloe was young and she was dealing with her troubled marriage, so she did not take the opportunity up. We can see that they're starting to warm up to one another. After the dinner, they walk around town and we get more backstory about childhoods and such. But then Matt Hansen gets a phone call. He tells the person that he thinks Helena, I guess Washington, would be a good place for a new headquarters for Sundance Airlines. Ginny hears this. He's not trying to hide it. Ginny hears this, and she is livid. She reads him the riot act. How dare he make this sort of decision without informing her when she's part of the team? He doesn't have a good response. Later, she complains about this to her daughter, Chloe, who pushes back by asking if she's told Matt Hansen about her plans to keep the Santa flight going. She hasn't, but that's different, Ginny exclaims, even though it's not. Ginny calls Matt Hansen and asks if he can join her the next day. There's a tradition that she'd like to share with him. 3 days until Santa flight. Cut to her complaining about the headquarters possibly moving. It's going to affect the employees. But then she explains that she asked, this is her talking to Matt Hansen, I should say, in her home. But then she explains that she asked him over to help decorate the family tree. I don't know why she had to be vague. I'd like to invite you over for a family tradition. And then the family tradition is just decorating the Christmas tree. It's like the movie, I think there was in the original broadcast, this was I think a Lifetime movie. And I'm guessing there was a commercial there, so they kind of want to leave you hanging. What could that tradition be? Oh, it's decorating a Christmas tree. That's that family tradition that only Ginny's family messes with. While at her house, Matt Hansen notices a shrine of with different flight memorabilia focused on female pilots, but not just female pilots, including her grandmother. He's really impressed. They also talk about how valuable some of those artifacts might be because of how old or how significant they are. And Ginny says, yeah, there's a collector in the neighborhood that's tried to buy these things for me before, but I'm not selling them. They're just here for me. They're important to me. Then Ginny's dad, Megan and Charlie all arrive, and then with Chloe, the 6 of them decorate the Christmas tree. We jump ahead to the decorating being done. It's time for dinner. Ginny asks if anyone has considered potential New Year's resolutions. Her dad says no, he doesn't believe in them. Charlie says yes, he's going to be open to new possibilities. Megan says yes, she's going to make a list of personal goals she wants to achieve because making lists helps you achieve things. Chloe says she doesn't really like to talk about resolutions, but she does mention that she wants to go to college for web design. Ginny is really happy to hear that she's passionate about something. Matt Hansen, out of nowhere, says that he'd be happy to write her a letter of recommendation. It's like, dude, you do not know this young lady that well. I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm saying to write a letter of recommendation, you'd think you'd have to have some kind of understanding of who they are as a person or what they can do as a performer, as a worker. And he knows neither of these things about this young lady. Matt Hansen doesn't really know if he has any New Year's resolutions, but he's happy that he was invited to share this tradition with them. Ginny is asked about her resolutions, and she says she thinks it's time she starts mapping out the next chapter of her life. Well, because the airline has been sold, and her daughter's going to college, and maybe now is the time to figure out what she wants to do next. After dinner, Charlie chats with Megan, who pulls some life truths on him and says he's incapable of changing. This does not really make sense, but let me recap it for you in more detail. Charlie and Megan, who are secretly broken up, they chat about things, and she says, you never make decisions. You never attack anything. You just kind of go with the flow. And he takes offense to that, and I understand why. Ginny finds Matt Hansen amongst the partygoers. It's not really a party, Joe. Why did you say that? And then he asks if he'd be up for a walk. Cut to them on their walk. We find out he's heading back home the next day. She mentions she has something she wants to tell him, but then they stop for hot cocoa, and the guy selling it says he's ready for Santa's flight. And Matt Hansen says, wait, did I hear correctly? Santa's flight? Is it still going on? I canceled that flight. Ginny says, yeah, but I found a way to fund it. He says, well, why did you do this behind my back? And she says, because you'd shut me down. He says, how can I make you my VP if I can't even trust you? He storms off. 2 days until Santa flight. Ginny tells Charlie and Megan about the bad meeting with Matt Hansen. Charlie says there's a news team there to interview her about the Santa flight, so she might as well go and do it. Cut to her mid-interview. She talks about the Santa flight's importance to her and to the children and their efforts to save it that they've taken. Matt Hansen watches the interview from his hotel room. He sees how much the flight means to her and seems touched. He immediately calls his boss. Cut to Matt Hansen arriving at the office. He tells Ginny her speech was amazing. He also announces that his boss is willing to keep the Santa flight going. He explains that it's a great way to get press and for goodwill. And I don't know if it's here that he said it, but basically, I'll explain in a little more detail. They'll still collect donations for the Santa flight, but if it's ever under met, like if they don't get enough money to make the Santa flight happen, the company will cover the rest of the cost. We cut to them picking up some toy donations for some toy drive, I think for the kids that are going to be on the Santa flight. We find out Ginny's always wanted to be a pilot, and Matt said he wanted to be a teacher, which isn't really mixed with what he said before, which is that he always wanted to be in business. Whatever. She asked if he ever wanted to have kids. He says maybe one day. Cut to them at a diner getting lunch. Matt Hansen has a present for Ginny. It's a Barbie-esque woman and man pilots in pilot outfits. They play with them and have fun. Cut to the fundraiser being held at the bar. They're making a lot of money for the Santa flight. We get some subplot with Charlie and Megan urging Ginny's dad to ask the bar owner to dance. He does. Then Charlie and Megan join them. Charlie starts to tell Megan that he's rethinking their breakup, but then chickens out. Matt Hansen shows up and tells Ginny he wants to recommend her for his VP. He's determined that he needs someone who can challenge him, just the way Ginny does. But there's a catch. The role will be based out of Portland. She'd have to leave Snowflake. He says this could be the new chapter she's been thinking about. She says she will think about it. One day until Santa flight. Cut to Ginny's dad telling his kids that the bar owner wants him to join on as her business partner in the bar. And maybe more he's worried about or concerned about. We find out that his wife, who passed, was best friends with the bar owner, and it makes him uncomfortable. Everyone tells him Mom would have wanted him to be happy. At breakfast, Matt Hansen has some bad news for Ginny. They're going to have to lay off Charlie. And we, the viewer, know that that's not that big of a deal, because earlier he had mentioned to his girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, that a local school was going to be hiring for a music teacher, and he was thinking about applying for it, but ultimately he didn't want to leave his sister alone by herself trying to help run the airline. And this is what led to their disagreement, where she says that he doesn't ever make decisions. He just kind of rolls with things. So we know that he has been looking for a new job anyway, so him getting laid off isn't a big deal. But Ginny doesn't know this, so she's kind of bummed out that she has to lay him off. She also accepts the VP role. She tells Matt Hansen that they're not exactly where they need to be with the Santa flight yet. She's worried. He holds her hand and says everyone has put in 110%. All they can do is stay positive and see what happens. Cut to Ginny's dad bringing flowers to the bar owner. He's sorry about being unsure about what to do with her before, but he's in on being her partner, and he also asks her out on a date, and he kisses her. Busy visit for old dad. Cut to Chloe, the daughter, checking the website. They've reached their goal. Santa flight takes flight tomorrow. Everyone cheers. Everyone celebrates. Megan mentions that there was a last-minute anonymous donation. Who could that be? And this is when Matt Hansen announces more details about the Santa flight in the future. Basically, they're going to put up donation bags or buckets or whatever the fuck at different places, different airports, in order to collect the money. And then if they don't ever meet their goal, the company will cover the rest. Cut to Matt Hansen and Ginny wrapping gifts. He's helping her out wrap her last-minute Christmas gifts that she hasn't yet to wrap. He asks if she's figured out who the last-minute donation came from. She figures it was one of the board members moved by Chloe's website. They goof around, and she ends up in his lap. They share a moment, but Ginny gets a call from one of her maintenance crew. There's a problem with the plane they were going to use for the Santa flight. It's going to take a couple of days to fix because they can't get the manpower needed to fix it any faster. It's like Christmas or Christmas Eve after all. This leads to Ginny and Matt Hansen arguing because she's come up with crazy ideas and he's not sure if they'll work. Okay, I don't remember all her crazy ideas, but one of them was like to use Matt Hansen's private jet. And he goes, we can't because it's just not big enough for all the kids and the staff. And she goes, well, can't you just get another jet? Can't you fly in? And she's like, look, we can't do that. For whatever reason, each idea doesn't work. And so she starts really just laying into him about this. She's so nasty to him in this scene. And then she storms off. Left in her home all by himself, Matt Hansen wanders around and notices an antique missing from her tribute shelf. It was the one that was supposed to be very valuable and belonged to her grandmother. Matt Hansen, just to not be mysterious, she sold it. That's who the last-minute donation was. It was her. She sold the memorabilia from her grandmother. Matt Hansen, seeing this, calls his boss. He tells his boss, he says, look, I need your help. And yes, I know I'm asking for a lot, especially because it's Christmas Eve or whatever the fuck day it is. But if you can't help me with this, you're going to have to find a new CEO. Now it's Santa Flight Day. Ginny admits to her dad and Charlie that she sold her grandmother's pen to be the last-minute donor, and now she has to call all the donors to tell them the flight's off because of the maintenance issue. And Charlie is like, no, wait, you didn't hear? Matt Hansen flew in additional maintenance crew on his private jet, so they were able to fix the plane in time. The flight is still on. We cut to kids streaming onto the Santa flight. It's all decorated, and the kids are happy, and they're all dressed as elves, and the staff are dressed as elves. It's a lot of elves going on. Ginny's going to fly the plane. They take off, but then back on she's walking through the airplane to check in on everybody during the flight, and that's when she sees that the Santa that's supposed to be on the flight, who would it be but Matt Hansen himself. Ginny is touched to see him there. He gives out gifts to the kids that they collected at the toy drive. We see the kids arrive at the Santa Village. They all have a great time. Cut to Ginny breaking the news of Charlie's layoff to Charlie. And I'm like, why would you tell him while you're on this trip? It could have waited. You could have done it before the trip. You could have done it at any time. Why wait until you're in a foreign city to be like, oh yeah, we're going to have to let you go, buddy? Charlie is cool with it. In fact, he says, you don't have to lay me off. I quit. He's going to go get that job teaching music. Then he tells Megan that he wants to get back together with her, and he does this by proposing to her. She's so touched, she says yes. Everyone cheers. Later, Matt Hansen gives Ginny back her grandmother's pen. He found the collector and bought it back off the guy. She appreciates it. She also tells him that she can't accept the VP position. She wants to be a pilot full-time again. He says, well, hey, why don't you be a pilot for me coming out of Portland, where I live? I guess he lives in Portland. You can be an international pilot there. He also mentions that he's falling in love with her. She replies by saying, I got you, which is not the reply. Most people who say, I love you for the first time, they're not looking for someone to be like, I got you. Anyway, they kiss, and that's the end of the movie. It was a mostly cute movie. I like the different setting, the different plot. This time they're trying to save a flight while also trying to save an airliner from being, massively changed from what it was supposed to be, whatever. The only thing I didn't like was her hiding the Santa Flight fundraiser from him. I get with that within the movie, you're not supposed to like it. Within the movie, it's supposed to be a point of tension. But me, outside of the movie, it just makes me roll my eyes to be like, why wouldn't she at least ask? Because it's at some point, it's going to have to come out no matter what. So yeah, that was Christmas Takes Flight. MVP of this movie, I'm going to say it's Ginny. Now, I can tell you, now, you may know this actress. I'm going to look her up. And it's Christmas Takes Flight, Joe, not Santa Takes Flight. I watched a show called Scandal. And this actress was on there, and I forget her character's name. I could pause the recording. But you know what I'm not going to do? Pause the recording. Christmas Takes Flight. There it is. All right, her name is Katie Lowes. And she was on the show Scandal as Quinn Perkins. I loved the show Scandal. It was so silly, so over the top, but also had really, really good, exciting moments. And she played Quinn Perkins on that show. And so it was fun to see this actress in another venue. Enjoyed. Just didn't like the part about hiding. And she's the MVP of the movie. And I guess that's all. So thank you for listening. Thanks for hanging out for episode 23. And I'll talk to you again soon. Until then, take care.